Okay, how's everybody doing this evening? The reason I panned around the area here a little bit is to show you this mall. Actually, not, I don't know if it's a mall, but a shopping area right here in Carlsbad, California, just right downtown Carlsbad. I think they call it Town Village, something like that. But anyway, it's literally deserted at about 10 o'clock at night, and this is the holiday season. So this shows you how dead Carlsbad and California is right now. So if you're thinking about coming to Carlsbad or even California for the holidays, I would seriously reconsider, because there is nothing going on. I mean, I literally walked here from my house, which is about a mile and a half away, and saw nobody, zero people. I'm out after curfew. I don't know what I'm gonna say if they ask me why I'm out after curfew, but I'm gonna come up with something. But yeah, there's literally nothing going on. Even though the deputy or the sheriffs in Riverside and some of the Orange County area are not going to enforce the shutdown still is taking place because people just are, I guess, are just eager to comply. So there's literally nothing going on in California right now, or at least my area. And I would assume most other places too. And there's nobody on the streets either. It's literally dead. As dead as I've ever seen it. Almost like, nuclear holocaust or something like that. It's just literally nothing happening. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about Bitcoin tonight. And I was going to call this video Bitcoin, God or the Devil, but I don't know if that's a very good title. So I'm just going to go, Bitcoin, is it good or is Bitcoin evil? Because Bitcoin probably has one of the most interesting stories that you could ever imagine. If you're into mysteries, Bitcoin would be your topic or be your thing to look into. Nobody knows who developed Bitcoin, even though it's how many $100 billion cap idea. I don't even know how many billions, $100 billion dollar cap it is right now. I should have looked at before I started the video, but it's in hundreds of billions of dollars worth of capitalization. Nobody knows who invented it. Nobody takes claim for it. And not only does no one know who invented it, or nobody takes claim for it or claims it, nobody even knows. So even the early people that interacted with Satoshi Nakamoto, supposedly the person that invented Bitcoin, nobody even admits to ever meeting him face to face or anything like that. So it literally has no beginning, and nobody has any idea if it's where it came from or who invented it, or obviously their background or what their ideas were and what the intent was, which lends to the idea that perhaps it could be evil, that it was invented by governments to control people. Like people have been telling me here recently, the cryptocurrencies are being developed to enslave us. Or was Bitcoin a brilliant idea that came in the exact nick of time, right after the last financial crisis, and literally is going to save people their money and allow them to prosper in times of incredible upheaval, incredible times of distress. So literally, is it good or is it bad? Was it invented to be a way to enslave people, or is it the savior that we need in this time of incredible uncertainty? And that's what I want to talk about tonight, because I find it very interesting. One of the things that's gotten me into cryptocurrency is the story of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's being, like I say, this 100, 300, 400, 500 billion dollar idea that nobody takes claim for, even knows who did, and nobody even knows that person who did. It's not like the person's passed away and now we have somebody who says, yeah, I knew Satoshi, and here, this is a little bit about him. Nobody even knows anything or even claims to. Now, I understand that in the early days of Bitcoin that it could have been a little bit dangerous to be involved, because people could get arrested because of the Silk Road, and a lot of governments feeling like it was a threat, so they wanted to arrest you. But that's problem's gone away. So now step forward, come forward. If you were fearing during that time, you're no longer going to be in trouble, because obviously you would be a celebrity. And not only you'd be a celebrity, you'd be very, 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 very wealthy, because you have 1 million Bitcoin, which at that $20,000 is what, $20 billion, $20 billion. So if you're going to keep a secret, you got a $20 billion payday. That's a pretty expensive secret. So you're literally wasting. You're not, taking credit for getting the use of $20 billion, which would make you one of the wealthiest people on the face of the earth. And that's at $20,000. If it goes to $100,000, you would be probably the wealthiest person on the face of the earth. Not only are you losing out on that, you're also losing out on the incredible celebrity or notoriety or credit for coming up with an idea like Bitcoin, which I think is literally one of the most incredible things that could ever be developed. Like I say, it came right in the nick of time. It was the perfect solution, and it works, very, very well. Although it has a few things about it that are interesting, I will talk about here in a second. But anyway, to develop Bitcoin, and was it for good or was it for bad? I don't know. You could get on that train that goes by here all the time that says that this is a bad thing and stay completely away from it. Or you could just say, this is the thing that is going to keep people from the hyperinflation and the absolute ruination of fiat currencies, and not really losing all their value, all their wealth, all their buying power. So you could be on either one of those trains. It's entirely up to you. My thing about it is, and I'll give you my belief of who I think Satoshi Nakamoto is, and I think I got a pretty good idea who it is. And I've done a lot of research on this because, like I say, it's been very, 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 very interesting to me. And I would say that, maybe one day, somebody may do something with it. They don't make many movies anymore, but it'd be a great story if somebody really wanted to dig into it deeper. I've listened to some of the ideas that people have, and of course, there's a lot of people that claim to be Satoshi. I think you got Craig Wright, and then you have a lot of people think that they know who Satoshi. I've seen a couple videos on the internet that they think it's Adam Back from Blockstream. You've got Nick Szabo. You've got a lot of other people. You've got Gavin Andresen. There's a lot of people that people think could be Satoshi. I don't happen to believe any of those people are Satoshi. And the reason I don't believe any of those people are Satoshi is because there's 1 million Bitcoin at stake. And if any of those people that I just mentioned, already being people in the media, not in the media, people that are well-known people, why wouldn't they take credit for it, and why wouldn't they claim their $1 million or million Bitcoin, which is an incredible amount of Bitcoin? I think it's 5% of the total project. Now that's if 21 million ever get mined, and we know that not all 21 million will ever be available because some of them have been lost forever because of people losing private keys. So you have an incredible fortune, a vast fortune that you would have. You would have incredible notoriety. Like I say, that's an expensive secret if you want to keep it. So who did create Bitcoin? I happen to believe, and I've argued both things on this. And when I've said it could be evil, I've thought Ben Bernanke. And the reason Ben Bernanke, he was a Fed chairman about that time of the banking crisis. I think he was up until 2014. And just so happens, good old Ben has a background in cryptography, which is one of the reasons, one of the building blocks to cryptocurrencies was cryptography. All the early Bitcoin people were into cryptography, and that's code, being able to make things secret, privacy issues and stuff like that. So he had a background in that. And it's funny because I wanted to check my sources on that here, and I recently see that, unless I didn't do a very thorough search, a lot of that information about his background into cryptography has been taken off or is not around. Well, it should be in his Wikipedia page, unless I missed it and I don't see it there anymore. So Ben Bernanke has a background in cryptography. He was a Federal Reserve chairman. That would be one reason why they would never have claimed the million Bitcoin, because obviously the Feds, had way too much, they didn't. First of all, when you're creating trillions of dollars, you don't really need the 100 or the million Bitcoin. And of course, maybe they wanted the million Bitcoin as a stake in the project, but they were never going to claim it, but they just wanted to have it there. And that could have been one reason. Somebody like Ben Bernanke, not necessarily Ben himself, but a group of people within the government created Bitcoin because they knew that the fiat currency system would run out and that they wanted to have another way of not losing control or power, so they developed Bitcoin. And that's a possibility. And I've argued that point, and I've said that on my channel before, if you go back and watch my videos. And I've also argued the point, the one I actually do believe, that it was Hal Finney. Hal Finney was the inventor of Bitcoin. That's my personal belief after doing a lot of research and study on it. And the reason I believe it was Hal Finney is because Hal Finney's no longer alive, which would be a reason why the million Bitcoin have never been, or the account has been, nothing's happened with it. It's completely like it was after, around the time that Bitcoin was invented. And the other thing is Hal Finney was put into, he was frozen. Basically, they froze the guy thinking, and his reason for being frozen was that sometime in the future he could come back. Well, the only reason you would have 1 million Bitcoin and never give it to your children or your family if you thought you were dying is that somehow in the future you may think you can come back and reclaim the Bitcoin. I know it's a great story. I mean, and it's really kind of a story that's very difficult to believe, but I mean, that's the only conclusions I can come to, is that Hal Finney was the inventor of Bitcoin. Hal Finney had ALS and died, and I can't remember what year he died, but he thought that perhaps coming back in the future with 5% of Bitcoin, whatever mistakes he made in writing the code originally, he could remedy in the future with 1 million Bitcoin. And this was going to be something that he believed in and wanted to have control over in the future. And so that's why he was, and the family spent a lot of money, it sounds like, to cry. I don't even know exactly how, it's freezing somebody to make sure that they're preserved well enough so that in the future, if technology allows, that they can come back to life. And I guess the family did have Bitcoin at the time, and they sold the Bitcoin for, $100, $200, whatever price it was at the time of his passing, in order to pay for his cryo freezing or whatever they call that. And he's in Phoenix, Arizona, or someplace in Arizona, still, basically intact, but frozen. So perhaps Hal Finney, thinking that sometime in the future he can come back into life and have 5% of Bitcoin, and 5% of Bitcoin is huge. I heard somebody make the comparison one time, 5% of Bitcoin is the equivalent of how much gold the US owns as far as world gold supply. So 5% of Bitcoin is a huge amount, 1 million Bitcoin. So if Hal Finney came back in the future, had his 1 million Bitcoin, he could really control the project still from the future. And if there was something wrong with the way it played out, block sizes not being large enough, stuff like that, then he could fix it, remedy it, have power, have basically endless wealth to do whatever he wanted to do. And that's the reason. So that's my belief personally, that it was Hal Finney. The other reason I think it's Hal Finney is because the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto had to come from somewhere. And if it was Adam Back, and of course a lot of people think it was Adam Back because he's a British. It seems to be the person who wrote the white paper seems to have a kind of a British way of describing or talking or using words that are very British words. And then also, I guess, the Times, I believe it was the London Times, was in the first block, and of course he was from that area. So could have been Adam Back, I don't know. I think it was, there's a big YouTube video on it. I can't remember the name of the channel, but they go through it, and they go through a pretty detailed, going into all the different possibilities, and they come up with Adam Back. But I've listened to Adam Back being interviewed before, and I cannot get the feel that he is Satoshi, and I don't get the feel that Nick Szabo would be Satoshi. And as far as Craig Wright was concerned, if Craig Wright was Satoshi, I think he would have come forward a long time ago because he likes the limelight. So even though Andreessen thought that he said that Craig Wright was Satoshi, and of course he was one of the early people. In fact, I think he got the project handed to him from Satoshi. So there's a lot of different people here, but I do think that everybody that I've listened to said that they respected Hal Finney, and of course Hal Finney, I believe, did it because I just think that was his personality. I've watched a lot of videos on Hal Finney. In fact, there's a really cool video of him and his family right before he passed away, and it's very few views, but you could kind of see the guy was kind of a down-to-earth kind of guy, and very interesting, very interesting. And of course, the reason I think that this come about, and of course, if you follow the project as closely as we followed it and gone through all the ups and downs with all the different things, you realize there is kind of a divine nature to Bitcoin. The fact that it's here available for us today in this time where everything else is failing around us, and to have some availability to buy into something right now that can preserve your wealth is incredible. The timing of it is just absolutely unbelievable. So I do think it was meant for good. I think Hal Finney was the inventor. I think he was the person that wrote the white paper. There's a lot of reasons for that. You can dig into it yourself. I've not only listened to everybody, but also kind of used my own intuition and thinking about this. And of course, the conclusion I've come to is that it had to be Hal Finney. And of course, Hal Finney, right after the white paper was written, made a tweet that he was working on Bitcoin, which is like a week after the white paper was written. And I think that comes from Barely Social. Is that the name of the video that they talk about? I think something like that. You can look it up. Just type in who Satoshi is. Who really is Satoshi? I think the video's got like 500,000 views. You can check it out and watch it. So right after Bitcoin was the white paper was released, Hal Finney said he was working on Bitcoin. Of course, the first transaction was to Hal Finney. Obviously, if you're going to create something and then try it out, the first person you'd send it to was yourself to see if it worked. So that would be another reason. There's a lot of reasons, but I do believe Hal Finney was the one that created Bitcoin. So I believe Bitcoin was meant for good. If you believe either way, it's the vehicle. So if you decide not to get on the vehicle because you have beliefs that it's intent as evil, well then you are just a martyr. You are a crusader. Because obviously if it is what it is, you better use it. If it's meant for the benefit of whoever uses it, then utilize the tool. Because the tool is cryptocurrency, and that's what's going to get you through the future. If you don't use it, then because of principles that you feel like it's going to enslave people, well then I guess you're going to deny yourself that opportunity because you are a crusader and feel like it's the wrong thing to do. So go ahead and do that. I mean, that's up to you. That's entirely your idea. My idea is if it's meant for good or meant for evil, it's the only path forward. So you have to take it or not take it. If you don't take it, then you're going to struggle trying to figure out a way to preserve your wealth. If you do take it, well then, whatever you benefit from it, obviously you have the power over to do with it whatever you want to do with it. I guess if you feel like you want to help people that didn't benefit from it, then I guess you could do that too. So it's entirely up to you. But I do believe it's the only course for the future. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit tonight is I want to talk about the distinction between, a lot of people are mixing up smart contracts and Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not a smart contract platform. Bitcoin is proof of work, and Bitcoin does not run smart contracts like Ethereum does. The difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is smart contracts. The difference between Bitcoin and EOS is smart contracts. So Bitcoin does not run smart contracts. So a lot of this nefarious thinking that people have about cryptocurrency is attached to smart contracts. Smart contracts being, the ability to take the crypto and have some conditions behind it. Like I'm thinking, like there's going to be conditions, or there's going to be the abilities to write things into the money that makes it usable or not usable depending on who you are. Those conditions would be a smart contract, which would not be Bitcoin. I believe in the future you're going to have both Bitcoin, which is proof of work, and then of course some smart contract platform like EOS, or probably not Ethereum, because Ethereum's got the same problem as Bitcoin. It's slow. The transaction speed is very, very, very slow. So all Ethereum is Bitcoin on growth hormone, or whatever you want to say, because it has smart contracts attached to it. But the problem is Ethereum is much like the mirage in the desert. It's like you see the water out in the horizon, but the closer you walk to the water, it disappears and goes a little bit further. And that is Ethereum. Every time they think they've got a scalability problem, or a fix for the scalability problem, then it just gets a little further out, and they just keep pushing into the future. And I don't think there is a fix for the Ethereum scalability problem. So that's why we're on EOS, and that's why I always recommend EOS, even though the price isn't very good. And of course, I built this channel around EOS, which means it's never really grown too much because EOS doesn't really have, a lot of people following it because it simply has never really performed financially. It hasn't gone like an Ethereum from a few dollars to a few $1,000. It hasn't gone like Bitcoin from, a couple pizzas to $20,000 of Bitcoin. It's EOS hasn't done any of those things yet. So EOS just doesn't have the following that Ethereum does because people haven't seen those big appreciations. But it will, and one day it will, because I do believe it is a smart contract platform that runs very efficiently. And I believe there's some things going on with EOS that are unusual. The fact they got the Security and Exchange waiver, very unusual. The fact that they raised as much money as they raised, very unusual. The fact that they have, Google as a block producer, very unusual. They have some stuff going on that makes them very interesting. Even though people don't see it now, I see in the future some very big things happening for EOS. And if you don't think that, then you really haven't thought about it very hard, because there's some unusual things about EOS, and I think EOS is a player in this. And like I say, in the future, I do think smart money will run on smart contracts, and it will be smart money, and that's the future. It's not going to be anything different from that. So anyway, like I say, things are pretty slow here in California. I hope things are going better wherever you're at. I don't know how much longer things are going to be this way. I do think, though, that one of the things that will happen and I just watched a video on this not too long ago, is that if Biden does forgive student loans, and I think he will, and I think that's the right thing to do, even though a lot of people tell me that that's kind of a bad thing to do to people that actually worked and paid for their college. Forgiving these student loans would be bad for them. But it even if you feel like you got taken because you paid for your college and somebody else got it forgiven, you may end up still benefiting, because if these student loans get forgiven, it's going to be a huge boom to the economy. So if you paid for your college and you're struggling right now because you paid for your college, if they forgive student loans and allow people not to have to make that payment every month, look at what's going to happen to everything in the economy. You're going to have that money that went to the student loan payment, maybe buying real estate, maybe reinvesting in some sort of business opportunities, which raises everybody's standard of living. So if you were one of the ones that paid for college, but everybody now gets a big boost, it could bring the economy back faster. And also, whatever you're doing with your life right now, it could make your life a lot better, because now people have a little bit of money to spend and the economy starts to grow back again. So it's not a total loss for you if somebody gets their student loan forgiven. In fact, if I had paid my college, which I think when I was going to college, we didn't even have student loans, but I would be in favor of people getting student loan forgiveness, because I would want the economy to return again, to be booming again. So the best, if that was for people to get their student loans forgiven, I'd be all for it, because I would say, yeah, I want people to have money back in their pockets so they can support my business. Maybe I have a small business, a small restaurant. Maybe I have an online business, and now that people get money back in their pocket again from the forgiveness of a loan, that the government is just a black hole anyway, because they're just printing the money. And if they have money now to buy whatever it is I'm doing, then I'm going to be happy about that, because it's going to help everybody. So anyway, that's my opinion. And my opinion is the economy will bounce back. And I think Biden will forgive these student loans. That will bring the economy back, maybe bring real estate prices up a lot higher, asset prices a lot higher, because now instead of making a student loan payment, maybe you can make a house payment. Instead of making a student loan payment, maybe you can invest in a business and grow the economy. And I think that's the right thing to do. I think that's the smart thing to do. I appreciate you watching. Thank you.